one of the things I want to point out is that sometimes people will use a litigation database as kind of a repository for all of the transcripts that they have worked with. And so they kind of having like a master repository for all of the transcripts that they've worked with so that they can search upon these different fields and prepare for future depositions that they're going to be taking, or maybe search upon proceedings. So one of the things I want to point out is proceedings work the same exact way. You just go ahead and import files and work with them that same way. So everything that we've done with deponents, you can do with proceedings as well. But you also have the ability to transfer, once you're done working with a transcript, you can go ahead and transfer those deponents into a different database as kind of like that repository. So like you're like, okay, this is the case that I'm working on, but now that I'm done working with these individuals, I want to put them into that library of deponents that we have to kind of use as reference for the future. And you can go ahead and transfer deponents and say, I'm going to transfer them over to Jack's litigation database and pretend that this is that master database, and say who you want to bring over. Say, I'm done with these people. I'm going to transfer the related documents, which is those exhibits that we had created. And then you can go ahead and configure that exchange and transfer those deponents over to that master repository so that, and I know this isn't too many deponents here, but you could run searches on like things, fields like, okay, I'm doing I'm running a case in Minnesota and I need to find any documents that were tried in Minnesota. You can create your own fields in more settings, document. You can create fields and hot fields like you did before in the discovery database. But in this case, maybe you create, instead of like hot doc checkboxes, you could create checkboxes like, did this go to trial? Like trial question mark. And the check mark would mean, yes, this went to trial. And not checking it would mean, no, this did not go to trial. And so those are things that you can create on your own. That would probably be on a firm level, part of your standard practice that you would mark as you go through it, but it would allow you to kind of more easily have a repository of what you are looking for and identifying documents that like, okay, maybe this is a similar case. This can help me prepare for that, or like something along those lines. So just wanted to point out some of the ways that people will use the litigation database to as a repository of knowledge to help them as they move forward. So the last thing that I wanted to show you here is when it comes to, if you need to use previous testimony or depositions for what people said for presentation reasons, I wouldn't recommend going in and viewing like James J. Morgan's testimony this way. Because although this is pretty easy to use for creating designations, it's not the most aesthetically appealing. This isn't what I would want to share because there's all this blank space. There's this in the way. We don't want to be distracted by all these different things. So what I would recommend doing is any transcripts or proceedings or anything like that that you're going to want to present, go ahead and run a report or a full PDF without marking any of these, and then go ahead and hit export. And then re-import those full PDFs of the entire transcript. And what I've done is actually created a folder for them where you can house all of them in one spot called Deposition Transcripts. And you can see, got Harvey Fields, James J. Morgan, Thomas Osdean, and I could go in again to theater mode and I could call it up and jump to different areas. So let's say, or maybe I don't want this one. I want to call up something else. I want to call up Dep 3. So now I've got Thomas Osdean and say, okay, I've got Thomas Osdean. Let me jump to page 32 or 34 and call out lines 3 through 11. You can call this stuff out in the moment. And then highlight this person's hand. Did you say yes to whether you saw that or not? You obviously did, because you said yes. I don't know. But you can use this to call up people's previous testimony when you are questioning them, whether it is a deposition, whether it is in court. And again, what you want to be doing is sharing this screen as opposed to sharing everything. You can see my Spotify here for a second. But just wanted to show you, again, multiple different ways that the theater mode can be used. I kind of like using it for this purpose. You can, again, do this in the moment, or you can save these treatments and call them up, having already created them prior. It just depends on what your fashion of communication is, or fashion of questioning, how it goes, and what you feel like is going to be most impressionable on the people that you are trying to sway.